Good morning, respected judges. I am Jeremy Shakrison from the Affirmation team, and today I will tell you why I strongly support the use of AI in the justice system. But before I make my case, I want to tell you a story. A Israeli psychologist discovered something terrifying about the way judges make decisions. Judges grade the parole 65% of the time at the start of the day. That number dropped to nearly zero before their lunch break. Then after food, after rest, it reset back to 65%. Now imagine someone sitting in that courtroom. He shouldn't be punished as hard as the law's maximum. His case is borderline. His lawyer prepared well, but the judge hasn't had lunch yet. And without knowing it, without intending it, the judge gives him twice the sentence he deserved. Then an hour later, a man with a heavier criminal record walks into the same room before the same judge after lunch. He walks out with the half sentence he should have received. Same courthouse, same law, same country, different stomachs. That is not justice. That is biology deciding someone's freedom. And I ask you directly, can you depend on someone's freedom on a system that is inconsistent? Because that is the system we are defending if we reject AI today. First, AI removes the inconsistency that human biology makes inevitable. We are complex beings. That complexity is what makes us creative, empathetic, and irreplaceable in many areas of life. But in the courtroom, that same complexity becomes a liability. We cannot separate our decisions from our current state of mind. We cannot switch off hunger, exhaustion, grief, or anger when we sit behind the bench. The research proves it. A 60-minute break decided someone's freedom, not their evidence, not their lawyer, not the law. AI does not wake up feeling horrible. AI did not have a bad night's sleep. AI does not have a lunch break. And that is precisely the point. Not a weakness of AI, but its most critical strength is in this context. When consistency becomes the foundation of justice, it does not only produce equal outcomes, it produces something the current system has been slowly losing, that is public trust. Marcus Tullius Cicero, the Roman philosopher, argued that justice cannot exist without faith. Faith that the system treats every person by the same standard. Right now, that faith is being broken every day by a system where the standard changes before and after meals. AI does not fix every problem in the justice system, but it fixes this one completely, and this one has been destroying lives quietly for decades. Second, you cannot bribe an algorithm. Let's look at what actually happened in Indonesia. The Judicial Commission documented that between 2022 and 2023, hundreds of judges faced ethical and corruption investigations. Hundreds, and those are the only ones that were caught, documented, and reported. Behind every one of those cases is a person who bought their freedom and another person who couldn't. There's a phrase in Indonesian that has stopped being a criticism and started being an accepted truth. Hukum tumpul ke atas, tajam ke bawah. The law is blunt against the powerful and sharp against the weak. We say it so often now that we have started to forget it should horrify us. But we have normalized it injustice to the point where we quote it like a proverb. Now ask yourself, how does that system survive? It survives because every decision passes through a human being with a family to feed, a career to protect, a fear of consequence. Bribery does not attack the law, it attacks the person enforcing it. You cannot bribe an algorithm. You cannot threaten a system that has no family, no fear, and no personal interest in the outcome. The corruption entry point, the human vulnerability that bribery exploits, disappears entirely. When the decision maker cannot be reached by money or intimidation, justice cannot be purchased from a machine. And that alone is worth serious consideration. Third, AI can remember what we cannot and find what we will never see. A human lawyer reviews a complex financial fraud case over weeks. They work through thousands of transactions, building a picture piece by piece, hoping they don't miss the pattern that connects everything. And sometimes they do miss it, not because they are incompetent, but because the volume of data exceeds with what any human mind can hold simultaneously. An AI processes those same thousands of transactions in minutes. It identifies correlations across years of financial data, patterns that would take a team of analysts months of research to reconstruct if they found them at all. This is not a small advantage. Indonesia has hundreds of ongoing cases and thousands dismissed, not because the criminals were innocent, but because the evidence could not be assembled in time or in full. Financial fraud, corrupting networks, money laundering, these crimes are designed to hide inside complexity. AI does not get lost in complexity, it maps it. This capability is not a luxury, it is the difference between conviction and acquittal for people who belong in a prison. It is the difference between a corruption network being dismantled and being left to grow because no one could trace it fast enough. Fourth, AI is consistent not just across time but also across geography. The first argument argument was about AI being consistent day to day, unaffected by mood or biology. This argument goes further. AI is consistent across the entire country, and it matters enormously in a nation as vast and as diverse as Indonesia. A defendant in Papua faces a structurally different justice system than a defendant in Jakarta. The culture is different, the local norms are different, and because judges are human beings shaped by their environments, their experiences, and their communities, those differences enter the courtroom whether anyone intends them to or not. The same case in two different provinces can produce two completely different sentences, not because the law is different, but because the people interpreting it are. An AI system operates on one national standard. It does not have a hometown. It does not have a cultural loyalties, whether the defendant is Papua, Sulawesi, or Jakarta. And if the case is the same, the analysis is the same. Justice should not be a geographic lottery. It should not depend on where you were born or where you were arrested. AI makes the principle real, not just theoretical. Now to the solution and to the opposition's strongest attack. The opposition will argue, you are putting a human life in the hands of a machine. What if it's hacked? What if it's the government controls it? They are not weak questions. They deserve a real answer, not a dismissal. But first, we need to understand what has already been attempted. In the United States, the Compass algorithm was deployed in courts to predict whether defendants would reoffend, and judges used those scores to determine sentencing. A ProPublica investigation found it was twice as likely to falsely label black defendants as high risk compared to white defendants. It failed, and it failed not because AI cannot work to justice. It failed because Compass was privately built, profit-driven, and completely opaque. No one could audit it. No one could challenge it. No one was accountable for it. The lesson of Compass is not that AI is dangerous. The lesson is that AI without transparency is dangerous. Exactly the way a judge without oversight is dangerous. We already know that. That is why judicial commission exists. That is why courts have appeals processes. We built accountability structures around human decision makers because we knew they could fail. We are proposing the exact team for AI. This is the proposed built judicial AI, not a general AI given instructions, a system designed from the ground up with one function, to analyze legal case against a consistent, transparent, and publicly audible standard, open algorithm, independent technical auditing, full public transparency, every decision traceable, every deviation explainable, and critically, AI is not the decision maker. It is a mandatory second option. The judge still decides, but before any sentence is handed down, the AI audits that the decision for statistical inconsistency, factual gaps, and deviations from what the evidence actually support. If the judge's decision aligns with the evidence, the AI confirms it, and the process moves forward. If it deviates significantly, the AI flags it. The judge can still override it, but they must explain why in writing on the record for anyone to examine. Now, the opposition's attack, who is accountable when it goes wrong, has its answer. The judge is still accountable. The human is still deciding. But now there's a permanent layer of oversight that cannot be bribed, cannot be tired, and cannot be bought. Not a replacement, a check. We are not defending Compass. We are building what Compass should have been and never was. Respected judges, the world right now is divided into two kinds of people when it comes to AI. Those who trust it blindly and those who fear it completely. Both are wrong. AI is not here to replace human judgment. It is here to protect it from hunger, from bribery, from geography, from the 10,000 ways a human system fails the people it was built to serve. The judge who gave a heavier sentence before lunch did not intend to be unjust. The judge who accepted a bribe may have told themselves it was just this once. The judge is a remote province who sentenced differently than his counterpart in Jakarta may have genuinely believed he was fair. Intention is not the problem. The system that allows this failure without catching them is the problem. AI catches them. This is not about feeling, it is about standard. And for the first time in human history, we have a tool that holds the standard without flinching, without hunger, without fear, and without a price. I strongly affirm.